Saludos y bienvenidos everybody to the PGP Podcast, episode 82, the podcast mash number three. Josh Tobat, Pro Principal of Memorial Pathway Academy in Garland, ISD, Garland, USA, ready to rock and roll. And thank you, and thank everybody out there. Hopefully you had a good time to rest. Either you were off 3 days or for a whole week, whatever it was. Thanks. Thank you for everything you do for our beautiful profession because you're all builders helping it out. And hopefully you took this time to ensure that you were able just to vegetate, and then have those turkey sandwiches afterwards and vegetate and watch some football, whatever it was. But just make sure that you sharpen the saw and you're ready to rock and roll. Hey, remember that this is the PGP podcast, part of the Fantastic Four Network with Super Saturday. Coach Sean Hurt talks about data. So if you need someone to break down the data for you, that's the cat right there. Every Saturday, Facebook Live times 10 p.m. Eastern Time, a.m. Eastern Time. After that, Dr. Houston, Dr. Taylor, the doctors will give you a format, the real format on how to turn around the culture of a campus. They went from a D to a B in 1 year. They have everything formatted for you. So reach out. And who can ever finish off a whole Super Saturday with El Jefe, Principal Cafele, which is the third. And we ourselves right here, we have a special co-host and we'll reach out to her right now. PGP Podcast, making sure that you are part of this network right there. So if you want to be part of the show, reach out. We need all of you. It doesn't matter who. We need to learn from each other because we're all facing the same critical situations. If you're on social media, you know what I'm talking about. Whether the money, the cheerleading mom, the mom that wants her son to be the start quarterback, the lady that's fighting you for 1 point on the GPA. 1 point. Not 5 points, 1 point. You know what I'm talking about. If you got those international baccalaureate schools or those AP classes, you know what I'm talking about. It's all the gamut, but you know what? We're still the best profession out there. So reach out. If you're in Maine or you are in Florida, if you are in Alaska or you are in Hawaii or anywhere in the 48, we need you. We need your experiences. Reach out to us, DM us, and we will find the show for you because this platform has different avenues, different ways. We have from superintendents, like today, to podcasters. We have area authors, national speakers, and you could be part of that conversation. Your experience is a valued thing here, and we need you. So reach out. And right now, Dr. Moreno, I don't know where you're at. Dr. Moreno, I don't know, you're somewhere in Tanzania. I don't know if you're wrestling with crocodiles, or I don't know if you're with hippopotami or giraffes, but I love you. I miss you. Safe travels when you come back from the continent of Africa. Soon, in a couple of shows, we need you back here. But you know what? We have an awesome guest here. We have the Culture Queen, ¿Quién más? The Culture Queen, out of H-Town. Dr. Brandy, welcome to the show. Thank you for being on the co-host. Introduce yourself to everybody.
Hello, thank you for having me. I love this time whenever I get to co-host this amazing podcast, but I am Brandy Brotherton, and I am currently the Assistant Superintendent of Academics in Spring ISD here in Houston, Texas. Happy to be here, year 23 in education, and really just loving adults, teachers, kids, and showing people what education truly is, what public education truly is, and everything that we have to offer to our kids and families and communities. So thank you for having me here.
Well, we thank you for being here. If you need to pick someone's brain, that lady right there, check out her videos, talk about inspirational, connecting with kids, because we all know, doesn't matter what book, doesn't matter what speaker, you know the fact. Kids don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that young lady right there, she's on fire when she talks to those kids, to those parents. She brings light into them. Not only that, but she knows how to turn a school into a national blue ribbon school. So if you need to pick someone's academics, that's the brain right there. She brings everything to the table. And you know what? She is very friendly. She'll reach back out to you because you know what? Iron sharpens iron. As you all know, we are here to help out other individuals. And a couple of weeks ago, we had David Stack, and he's working on his PhD, and he still needs some more support. So the PGP podcast is here to help out all educators. David Stack, introduce yourself and let them know what you need.
All right. Hey, I'm David Stack. I'm right now currently not superintendent, principal at Susquehanna Township Middle School. Okay. What I need from everyone is to complete a survey for me to help me finish up my PhD and get it moving in the right direction, so I can put it to bed, put it behind me, and get some much needed rest. Stop stress eating, so I can fit back into my clothes. And the way you can do that is I'll hit me up on LinkedIn, David Stack. I'll put my email in the chat for anyone. Hit me up there. Hit me up, say you're interested in taking a survey. 20 question multiple choice survey. Very easy, put 10 to 15 minutes in it and it's good to go. I will send you a permission slip. You sign a permission slip for me stating that you're willing to do this and read all the, rules and regulations. After I get that permission slip back, I will send you the survey. If you complete the survey, and that's it. If you want to learn more about my findings after, I can send you my paper and let you look at it. That's up to you. But basically, that's the steps to help me out and get me my doctorate, my DR in front of my name.
Beautiful. So the best place to get a hold of this cat right here is LinkedIn. He's a LinkedIn monster. So check out, and then right now put it on the private chat, and I'll post it also, David. Mm-hmm. All you PhDs out there, I know you need this kind of stuff because my inbox gets full of those. Please, $50 gift card, all that. He's not paying you $50, all right? He's not. No. And some people don't have that kind of cash. But I know that
Josh is paying you $100.
No, I don't think so. No. Plus, reach out
to him.
Know what it is. You know what it is to finish that PhD. Please contact this cat. Get his edible eatings out of the way. That way he could get back into the show and become Dr. David Stack. Anything on that?
Oh, I like the sound of that.
Anything, Dr. Brandy?
I love it. Dr. Stack sounds amazing to me. So yes, please share all of that information. I'll also share that on my socials, and we'll get you taken care of so you can be doctor sooner than later.
All right, I appreciate that. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, brother. Put it in the private chat so I can post it also, okay?
Yep, we'll do. Thank you.
Blessings to you, brother. And we're also here to help out a past guest and future guest, the last show of the year. The main man here, writing books left and right, presenting at national conferences, and he needs your help to do what? Robert, introduce yourself to everybody and let them know what you need.
Thanks, Josh, for the opportunity. As always, I am Robert Hinchliff. I'm a principal in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I also am a speaker, as Josh said, and a guest on the show especially frequently coming up. Josh is kind enough to have been a part of my last book, or the one that's coming out in a few weeks, called More Than Just Principals. And what that does is that highlights principals from across the country who are more than just principals. We are counselors, we are educators, we are support systems, we're culture builders. We become assistant superintendents like Dr. Brandy Brotherton. We are people who just go above and beyond. And so that I'm excited for that to come out in the next few weeks. And of course, like I said, it does have a lot of guests who are on the show included in there, such as Mr. Tovar. But what I'm looking for is the next part of this series that I do is I am looking for some assistant principals who are more than just assistant principals. The people who are behind the scenes, running around your schools, doing all the great things, the ones you know are going to end up being principals soon enough. The glue that keeps everything together, the support when you need it as a principal, the people that make your vision happen. I need the names of some people who I can spotlight in my next book called More Than Just Assistant Principals. I will put my email in the chat as well, or you get a hold of me on Twitter. Josh always has me connected. And if you know anybody that you think could definitely use a shout out or be in the spotlight for that, that would be awesome.
Beautiful, Robert. He'll put the information down. You've authored what, like 10 books? What do you got, brother?
Yeah, I'm up to 13 now. It's my hobby. It's what I love to do. I always say if I ever get a New York Times bestseller, I'm out of here. But until that happens, I'll keep writing books. But, the goal is to make an impact for the positive in our profession. And if I got to write 100 books to do that, that's what I got to do.
Beautiful. So reach out to him, to myself. APs, you know, if you sit in the chair, what you had to do. And some of us had those special principles. You know what I'm talking about, right? If you know what I'm talking about, hey, put the spotlight. We send them the flowers right now that they're alive. Make sure that you say, hey, you know what, Robert? I've got this guy in Wyoming. I've got this guy in Iowa. Reach out and let him know. Send those flowers, because you know what? All those hours, all that testing, all those buzz, discipline, and books, you know what? It does take a lot of time and away from your family. So make sure you spotlight. Anything else, Robert?
No, I appreciate it, Josh. I'll see you in a few weeks, I believe, or next week, actually.
Next week,
And
brother.
I look forward to hearing about anybody who has amazing assistant principals out there. And I thank you for the time, as always, and what you do.
Thank you, brother. God bless you.
Same to you.
All right. So now, without further ado, the best of the best, the people that every morning wake me up with their content. They wake me up. They have diatribes and conversations and music on the start. They have everything right there. Hey, but just in case, go back to episode 64 and 66, our first two podcast match with other podcasts that I listened to: Barbara Bray, Two Principals, Mama J, Tony Katani, My EdTech Live, Dr. Joe Griffin, all those people right there, and including today's panel. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being here, because we know one thing. Hey, educator, you and I know one thing. There is no money in education right now. So those POs to go to Las Vegas, those POs to go to Florida, fuera, adios, they're gone. But you know what? You have tons of free PD right now. All you got to go is to Apple or to Spotify, and you've got these individuals right here, because they do it. They do it out of love for the profession and to make sure that they support you. Panel, welcome, everybody. Dr. Brandy, take it away.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening on the Sunday before back to school tomorrow. I hope we're ready. 3 weeks and then we get another break, but we're happy you're here. All right. So team, we're going to start with Casey. Team, describe to the audience your origin story. And when I say that, I'm talking like Manville Comics origin story, and the roles that you've served and why they matter. Casey, it's all you.
Hey, thanks for having me, Josh. I drank so much coffee today to try to keep up with you, and it's still not enough. I was really good at math, so I was going to be an accountant, and that was a terrible idea once I got into college. And then I took a class with a guy named Dr. Michael Flam, and it was a history class, and I was like, this is the stuff I want to do. And so I switched my major, went into history, taught social studies for a bunch of years. Did some administrative work at a bilingual school in Concepcion, Chile. Moved back here, spent a little time working in Rawlins, volunteering at the prison and teaching while I was there. That's where in Wyoming, that's where our prison is in Rawlins. And then I got a job in my current district, which is in Gillette, Wyoming. And I taught some more social studies for a while, and eventually took over as an instructional coach. They call me an instructional facilitator because it's not just coaching staff. I do a lot of other things with the district, part of a lot of district teams, like we're currently working on an AI plan. But I absolutely love my journey. I love that I spent 20 years in the classroom with kids, and I love now that I get to spend my time with adults and kind of hone our practice, and I really appreciate that opportunity. And I appreciate this opportunity, Josh, so thanks for having me. Oh, I should also mention I'm co-host of the Shirts and Ties podcast. I believe the ties guy was supposed to be here as well, but he must be missing in the mountains somewhere. So it's just me.
Love it, Casey. Love it. All right, Jeff, what's your story? Let us hear it.
Well, I go back. I'm a non-traditional educator. I did not get into education right out of college. Actually went to college for a while, went away from college, didn't know what to do. I thought I was going to be a athletic therapist, physical therapist at one point. At one point, I thought maybe I was going to become a youth pastor. None of those things were really meant for me at that time. And so I got into coaching, and that's where I found my passion for education. So I went back to college, became a educator 10 years after high school graduation. The last 19 years I've been working as an educator. So I have been in small rural schools in Nebraska. I've also worked in the Omaha metro area in Nebraska as a teacher, as a football coach, as a wrestling coach, as a track coach. Had a lot of those experiences. So I got to see what it's like to be in a small rural school, but I've also seen the Omaha metro and worked at the time in the largest high school in the state of Nebraska. Then I decided that I was wanting to become a principal. So I stepped into a principalship, a 712 principalship in Southern Valley. I did that for about 4 years, but I always knew I wanted to get into a bigger district. And that's where I'm at today at Hastings, Nebraska High School, where I am the high school principal. I'm in my 4th year there, and I really love just collaborating with the team and moving the needle and trying to get our school to where they need to be. And I also host the Educational Leadership Podcast, something that I felt, you know what, I can learn from other people because that's how I learn. But having great people on the podcast, like Josh has been on the past podcast, Dana's been on the podcast as well. But I learned from those people, but I want to share what I learn with other people so they can get better. Like Josh says, iron sharpens irons, and PD, free PD with your podcast. I love all those, and I really work hard to try to help people have good content to no matter if you're in a small rural school like I was or in the Omaha Metro, you have something that you can go to have some sort of just inspiration and help you get better as a leader. So there you go. There's a synopsis of, kind of where I've been in education.
I love it. And I was a coach too for a lot of years in high school. And I'm from a little bitty, tiny, small town with 1,000 people. So I get both ends of the spectrum, and they're very different, but such good work in both places. So thank you for sharing that. And I knew I connected with you somehow. Small town, girl, coach, different coaching just does something for people that gives you this leadership insight that it's just something money can't pay for. So thank you for sharing that with us. All right, Miss Dana, it is your turn. Share your story.
Hi, well, thanks for having me on. So I started out teaching French. I speak 5 languages, French, German, Norwegian, and a little bit of Spanish. So taught high school French for about 13 years. I've also taught ESL and English, and moved into leadership really because I took on some leadership roles as a teacher, like a department chair. I also worked on a lot of committees, like attendance committees and TSS committee. So into leadership, starting out as a dean. I've also been an instructional coach, so working my way up to admin. I currently work in the Colorado Springs area. I live in Lone Tree, so it's about a 45-minute drive. But I've worked in different districts in the Denver and Colorado Springs area. So, I've worked at all. So I kind of have I've been in education for 26 years now. So, I really like just seeing how we can more effectively this year bring students in and, up our attendance rates. We're on the 2nd year of Yonder Pouch, a piece of just making sure we're enforcing the cell phone ban, those types of things. But of the Out of the Trenches podcast. So that's been on the air for about 5.5 years. So I'm excited to be here and talk with you all and just learn from everybody here.
Awesome. We love it. Thank you all again for being here with us this evening. I'm going to pass it back over to Josh for up next.
Thanks, Brandy. Appreciate it. But before we get into the next question right there, shout out to my sister from South Carolina. Oh, we lost the Civil War to that ugly orange. Oh, I'm so sorry. Chica Houston, thank you for being here. Nick Edwards from New Jersey. He started a consultant gig on the side. I don't know. Principal Elementary. Reach out to Nick Edwards. He has some good merch also. McKeever Jeter, Fantastic Four cheerleader, coach for everybody. Constance Sherrod from Missouri. John Hurricks, I saw your post. You're starting to blog things out. John, great job. Sean Hurt, remember we talked about Sean Hurt? You need to know about data. That's your cat right there. Thank you, Coach, for being here. We will not talk about Mr. or Mrs. Potato Plant today, Coach. Melissa Jones-Chunu from Tulsa. Recently, Dr. Melissa Jones-Chunu. Dacosta Ahito from Ghana, past guest. And Frank Poland, thank you for being here. Appreciate you, everybody. Here we go. Panel. Dana, starting off with you right now. So who or what inspired you to be an educator? Who or what inspired you? And what part did your parents, what role did they have in helping you reach this stage?
So I was really inspired by guiding tourists. When I was a student, I studied world languages. I didn't go into my bachelor's degree thinking I would go into education. I just wanted to study languages, and I was thinking I'd be a guide on a cruise ship. And I talked to the people that worked on cruise ships when I was a tour guide in the city I lived in, and just the schedule just didn't seem that interesting. So I decided to then pursue a master's in education. So that was pretty much what got me into education, because I was used to being in front of a group, relaying knowledge as a tour guide. My parents, they supported me in the fact that I was living in Norway for my bachelor's degree, and my dad spoke several languages as well. So they were supportive of just the fact that I was living abroad, and then when I came back, they lived in Tulsa at the time, so I came back and pursued my master's in education there. So I think it's a combination of both just the love of languages and also the love of travel that led me to starting out teaching French.
Thank you for sharing that right there. Quick shout out to Kenyelle Sessions, guest in 2 more shows, and Miguel Castillo, past guest with our EB show. Casey, who or what inspired you, sir, to be in education, and what role did your parents play reaching this stage?
Yeah, so in all honesty, my parents, it took them a little while to grow up. And so in my early years, things were kind of tough. And there was a guy named Mr. D, Mr. Donut, Mr. Dennison, 4th grade teacher, the first adult male who looked at me and believed in me and trusted me, entrusted me to believe in myself and the skills that I had. I remember he forced me to go into the spelling bee, and I'm like, nah, I can't do the spelling bee. And I didn't win, but I did okay. And so that was a big moment. So I appreciate Mr. D and what he offered me. In high school, I had another teacher. He was my shop teacher. And that was the moment that I realized that it wasn't just about the skills that we were trying to learn at school, but it was about bringing some life lessons into it. And so I appreciated Mr. Metzger, my high school shop teacher. And then, but still, I was really good at math. And so I had mentioned before that I thought about going into accounting. I didn't know what else to do with math. You grew up the way I do. You got limited options. Well, once I got to university, I was severely unhappy in the accounting program. I'm like, I like people. I don't want to be just counting somebody else's money all day. And then I had I took a history course with Dr. Michael Flam at Ohio Wesleyan University. An amazing guy, and his ability to tell stories through history. I'm like, that's the thing I got to do. And so after my first day in that class, I went straight to my advisor. I said, hey, I need to change. I want to be a history teacher. I want this guy to be my advisor. And so that started this journey that I'm on now. And so those 3 guys made such a difference in my life, and I've appreciated them for that.
Very nice. Thank you for being so open. And that's what you hear in that guy's show. Shirts and ties, a lot of straight out stuff right there. Hey, Kenlin Mark, thank you for being here. I don't know about that. What is that? Indiana? I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of Indiana fans till this year, but all right, got it. Principal JL, who or what inspired you, sir? And how did your parents help you out reach this stage?
Yeah, I would have to say for me, I didn't know I was going to become a teacher until I started coaching, right? So for me, it was actually my older brother calls me up and said, hey, we need help coaching football, junior high football at Kearney Catholic. And I'm like going, yeah, but I haven't really done football since high school. He's like, just teach them what you learned in high school. You'll be fine. And then I started coaching junior high football at Kearney Catholic in Kearney, Nebraska. And I just fell in love with it. And then I started putting some things together like coaching, teaching. I really enjoy watching kids take the things that you teach them and become successful with it. So that's what inspired me to go back into college to get my undergrad in physical education and in mathematics. I got mathematics, I double endorsed because I knew I was not going to get a job right away as a physical educator, but math is really what opened up the doors for me. So I taught 11 years in junior high to high school age level students for education. My parents, I would say my parents were more of an encouragement. My dad did not get out of the 8th grade. My dad has dyslexia back then in the 60s. If you had dyslexia, you were just labeled lazy and dumb. And he said, see, I'm out of school. I'm dropping out when he was in 8th grade. My mom finished high school, but she always wanted her kids to go to college. So she really encouraged us to go to college. And it was one of those things. I started college, I went away from college, and I found my passion and figured out, I'm going to go finish. And so me and my older brother are the two first generation college graduates from our family, which, I think my mom's encouragement really helped with that. And so that's kind of how my parents helped me get to where I'm at today, is just, encourage me to be more than what they were when they were growing up, because they wanted what's best. And as parents, we always want what's best for our kids or what's better for them. And so that's kind of how they helped me become to where I'm at today.
Perfect. Exactly, Kellen. It's amazing. There is no set cookie cutter on how we become educators. You just heard a vast, different way of approaching education, and it's beautiful. And you could tell this passion on all their shows. I highly recommend everybody to reach out early in the morning or whenever you're doing your PD on walking with whatever you're doing and listening. These shows are great, and we're going to get into that right now. Welcome, Dr. Sonia A. Matthews, past guest on the show, and you have the email for Dr. Stack, future Dr. Stack's support that you need there. Da Costa, thank you for being here once again out of Ghana. Stick.
All right, we're going to start it back off with Jeff. We're going to start this question with you, and thank you for sharing. Thank you all for sharing those amazing stories. And whenever I think and listen to you, it always comes back to the people, right? Like it always comes back to the relationships that you've made. So thank you for sharing the relationships with us and how much they matter. All right, Jeff, describe to us, think about a time when you had a positive interaction or you were in a positive event with a student or a colleague that solidified your love for education.
I'm going to go back to when I was coaching and teaching. You don't realize the impact that you have with people until like much later. Like you kind of just do the work, right? You're grinding, you're doing your lesson plans, you're teaching kids, you're coaching kids to the best of your ability, watching them grow, get the light bulb moments, which are a lot of fun. But you really don't know the impact until like years down the road. So I had a kid I coached. I actually coached him only for 1 year. It was when I was at Millard North. I was a track coach. It was my first time coaching the throws. Well, not my first time. I was coaching middle school throws, but at a high school level. And so I had a kid that worked really, really hard. He was a freshman, and he got so good to where I couldn't not have him be varsity. So I put him in some varsity meets, and he just kept going to the point that as a freshman, he qualified for the state tournament. He didn't place that year, but as a freshman in the biggest classification in Nebraska, he did really, really well. Well, I would say fast forward 2 years later, he wrote me a letter saying, because he ended up becoming a 2-time state champion in shot put. And then he also went on to throw for the University of Nebraska in Lincoln. So he became a Cornhusker. So he wrote me a letter saying that when I coached him that freshman year, that because I believed in him, because I gave him the tools he needed and the belief in himself, that he is now where he's at because I believed in him enough to have put him on the varsity spot as a freshman. And so, those are the type of stories that I love, having in education. I've had a lot of other ones like that, but that's the one that really the first time I'm like going, wow, I really did not realize that short amount of time I had with that athlete, that I impacted him that much. And so that would be one of many stories that I've had when it comes to that.
Awesome. Love it. And you're so right. Sometimes we don't get our flowers until long after they're out of our care, but trust and believe they know and they remember. So thank you for sharing that. All right, Miss Dana, you're up.
So I remember back to some of the time when I taught French. I taught in the IB program and preparing the kids for the IB exam. We did a lot of practice tests leading up to it, and just walking through all the criteria that they needed to know what to expect from these practice tests. And when students would come back and after the real test and say to me, what we did in class, it really prepared us well for the test. They had the written and the oral portions of the test that they felt like that they got a solid grade on that. And then, thinking those are students that graduated like 17, 18 years ago. And some of them I have on social media. And sometimes they'll send me DMs and they'll say in French. So, the fact that they're still able to use French for all these years, right? And, it's something that, they learn in high school and you want them to continue using, whether it's through travel or just occasionally with their old teachers. So, that's something that makes me happy, just to know that I made that impact in helping students learn a language.
And what an amazing impact. So to help someone learn a language, that's amazing. Thank you. All right, Mr. Casey.
So I had a moment that actually it was about 20 years ago, but it still energizes me today. So when in my first years of teaching, I knew I was pretty good at it, but I wanted to be better and I didn't necessarily know how to be better. And so after 5 years, I started to just look for something else to do for a little while. And I ended up getting an opportunity to be an administrator at a bilingual school in South America. But when I told that to my students, is when I discovered the kind of impact that I had on them. What ended up happening is at the end of the year assembly, I ended up getting a standing ovation from all of my students. They gave me gifts. They wrote me the sweetest notes. And I was overwhelmed. I was just in tears because up to that point, I just didn't realize the impact that I was having on the lives of these students. And that moment, and all of us are going to find ourselves in that moment. And I hope that you'll get an opportunity at least similar to that or close to that, where the world tells you, no, this work you're doing, this is good work. This is powerful work. And I have not forgot that since then.
Awesome. Love it. Keep doing the good work, because at the end of the day, regardless of who sees it and who doesn't, those people that you're impacting need you. They need us. They need adults that believe in them, adult teachers and kids alike. So I encourage you to keep doing the amazing work that you're doing, and thank you for sharing. All right, Josh.
Don't you love her? Isn't she amazing? It just flowed out natural. I love that. All right, here we go. Let's get to the meat and potatoes. Let's talk about the pod, all right? You guys are totally different, and I love it. You guys are totally different. I love it. But you're the same. That's what I love. So we're going to start off with shirts and ties. Oldest tenure one that I have here right now. Shirts and tie. So tell the audience. Yes, you have a lot of people following. Dana has over 300 episodes. Jeff is about to hit number 60 soon. But people still don't know us. People still don't know the podcasting world. They think it's a side little funny, little fun thing. They don't know how big it is. But it's all niches, right? So, Casey, please talk about shirts and tie. When it started, the purpose of it starting, obviously we all had a genesis, which was COVID, but some people might be different. So when did it start, and what is the overall theme of your show, and who's your audience?
Yeah, so again, thank you, Josh. So it's called the Shirts and Ties Podcast. I'm Casey Shirts, so the shirts part. My buddy Brian is the co-host. He wears a tie all the time, Shirts and Ties Podcast. But here's really how it started. So Brian and I worked together. It's been a little more than 15 years ago. And we had a pretty solid friend group, and we'd go out for drinks all the time and hang out. But at some point in the evening, even though there'd be 6, 7, 8 of us, Brian and I would just be sitting by ourselves talking about education, because for he and I, this is part of who we are. It's not a job. It's not a career. It is us. And so we kept joking, we should just hit record, make it a podcast. Well, eventually with some prompting, we did that. And so that was about 3 years ago, maybe 3.5 years ago now. And I don't know if we're approaching 150 episodes. And we call it a culture and education podcast, because we do try to get beyond the world of education. We try to learn lessons from beyond the world of education. One of my favorite is when we talked about movie our favorite movie bosses, and we tied that to education in some way, or least favorite movie bosses. But we also have some really profound educational leaders come on the show. We've had John Hattie, for those of you who know who he is. We also have a guy named John Almroad that's going to be released in a couple of weeks, who is an absolute titan when it comes to understanding education, how learning is constructed. So look forward to that. We've had him on before, but he's so good. We're going to have another episode with him coming out. We also try to approach leadership topics. So the most recent release, other than our Shirt Shorts, was an episode with Jen Abrams, and she talks about having difficult conversations. And so when you ask who the audience is, obviously we're focused on education, but we have a lot of business leaders who listen to us too, because so many of the conversations we have is just about leadership in general. Like Jen Abrams, we have a lot of parents that listen to us, and they're trying to get some insight into how schools work. And then, of course, we have a lot of teachers and teacher leaders who listen to the show as well. And I've been told by a few students to listen to us as well. That makes me a little nervous, but every once in a while they'll let us know. So
Great. Thank you for sharing that. And if you do go on the show, they start recording real quick.
we do.
They start recording real. You don't even know they're recording. They're recording real quick. But thank you for
like
sharing that. We'll
like
get
the
into
off the
details.
air stuff.
Right, and the off the air stuff, exactly. All right, next, Dana. She over 300 episodes. What was the genesis of it? Well, what's the overall theme of your show, and who's your target audience for this?
So we got about 382 episodes. So it was a genesis over COVID, basically, as well. But I had been listening to several educational leadership podcasts, like Principal Center Radio, Transcool, and Better Leaders, Better Schools podcast. Shout out to those. And I had talked to Danny Bauer about, like, how did you get started with the podcast, and got some tips from him. And then decided to, which was in March of 2020, I had some extra time. So I came up with the title, Out of the Trenches. Obviously, COVID was a big trench for all educators, but all educators go through some sort of a trench during their career. I've been through several. I ended up writing a book a couple of years after the podcast called Out of the Trenches, Stories of Resilient Educators. But that's a question I start off with in the podcast. The first question after I read people's bio is, tell me about a time when you were in the trenches and managed to crawl out. So I interview authors sometimes. I've had a few of the names that you mentioned, Casey, on my podcast as well. I interview school leaders. I interview teachers. I have interviewed some parenting experts as well. But I would say my audience is primarily K-12 educators, whether they're in the classroom or in leadership. But I think it's really finding an episode with a guest that would, be something of interest to you. And I think that's what, Josh, you do when you highlight the episodes that you're listening to, because they're never in order. So you sometimes find an episode from a year or so ago, right? So, but yeah, I think, it's really showing that educators are at resiliency. We learn either it's sometimes a mistake that we've done and we've learned from that, or sometimes it's just a rough time in a position that we had and maybe we needed to change positions, those types of things. And just hearing from the other educators about how they've navigated that trench and what's kept them in education. Sometimes they might have left and they're now consultants, right? But it's really just sharing that story of how we can lean on each other to remain in some sort of a setting where we are serving either other educators or we're serving the students in our building.
Thank you for sharing that. And yeah, the way I fit your all your shows, I look for 42, 22, 552. It has to fit within my workout time. But you know what? Yeah. Sometimes I have to scroll all the way back to play some of those early shows. At 26 minutes, it fits right there. Jeff, I heard you out of nowhere. And then I saw you. I heard your little intro music. I go, that cat, I like that show. Jeff, talk to people.
All right. So my podcast, Educational Leadership with Principal JL, the genesis of it basically was me going to networking events like with my regional principals, my state conferences, and we'd sit around and talk about education stories. And I would just learn so much from other people to where I was just like, man, this is great stuff. Maybe we should write a book. Well, I'm not very good at that. So I figured a podcast would be a better way to really do those things. And so what I wanted to do is highlight educational leaders and their journeys and their stories, because everybody gets into leadership differently, but we all have different types of things that have impacted us. But we also have similar things that we can go, you know what, I can relate to that person. And so just to learn from other people in the profession that are doing the work was really the most important thing. I was working with Coach Angela Kelly, and we were just trying to figure some things out to where, like, for me, I'm thinking of changing my principalship from Southern Valley at the time to Hastings, and working through that. This was in 2022. I was looking for ways to get better, and I was listening to different podcasts, and I didn't see a lot of it out there. So I'm like, hey, what if I just find some people that I know, we get together, we have some interviews, and we do some things. I also do some solo episodes where I just talk about maybe something that's, laid on my heart. I really want to talk about something that either is frustrating or is bugging me, or something I want to share that's, really a positive thing, or something I've done to share with other people because it might help them. I just don't know what that impact would be. So I wanted to share me being in the seat, how I lead to other people as well. So I kind of do a balance of, solo episodes with guests. I've had a lot of different guests. Josh, I've had you on my show. Dan, I've had you on my show. Just getting people together and learning from them so other people can have something, because when I was in a small rural school, there wasn't a lot of ways to network as much. So leaning on podcasts was something I really thought would be helpful. So my thing is I started in 2022. I wasn't really serious, I would say. I kind of just did some episodes here and there for the first 2.5 years. It was December 1st of last year where I said, you know what, I really want to really drill down and really try to release consistent content. So actually, I'm coming up on almost a year of doing that, to where I'm up to 51 episodes. Within the past, year, I went from 7 to 51. Just meeting people, networking, and meeting a lot of great educators, which actually helps me do the work I'm doing. I'm actually bringing things back to my high school and go, hey, here's something I learned. What do you guys think? And there's some things we've actually implemented at my high school because of the podcast, and listening to other people's podcasts. Like, I listened to PGP and get inspiration from this podcast as well, and learn some things. I learned about the Fundamental Five, from this podcast, and I'm looking at that. How can this be implemented at my school? And so I think those are a lot of really good things. That's kind of what I am trying to do. My target audience is educators in general, people that want to aspire to be educators, people that are in the seat, people that, maybe a teacher thinking about it. I've had parents listen to it. I have my students actually listen to it, and they actually say, good job. I'm like going, okay. So overall, I think it's gone well, and it's been received pretty well. But overall, I just want to help other educators get better at this craft and share the positivity that we need to hear. We need to hear the positive things that are going on in education, because all you hear a lot of time on the media is all the negativity. And so we want to share stories to help people understand that, hey, it's not as bad as people want to make it out to be. It's actually very rewarding work, and actually something that we love, because we love helping people and want people to do great things. And so that's kind of the overall scope of my podcast.
Thank you, Casey. Thank you, Dana. Jeff, thank you. I've taken a little bit away from little parts of your podcast to make me 1% better. Brandy, go.
212, one degree better every day. That's all we can ask from people, right? And I can't wait. Like, I'm adding y'all into my podcast morning workout rotation. So how I don't have these in is beyond me, but you will be on tomorrow in my ear first thing in the morning at 4 a.m. whenever I go to work out. So I have high expectations. And 212, remember that. All right. So this next question is a two-part question, specifically about the shows that you've had, what you've learned, and what specific interview stands out to you the most. Casey, we'll start with you.
Oh gosh, to quantify what has been learned is an impossible task. There are so many brilliant minds out there, sitting with four of them right now, which is incredible. And that really has been my favorite part of the show, because when it started, I have a great deal of respect for my co-host, and our conversations are incredible. But this opportunity to bring on and to be around the smartest people in education and people who are just as passionate as I am, that's been the absolute best part. And so constantly learning. As far as a favorite, I'll share a couple. One was with a recent guest, Jen Abrams, and I asked her the question. I said, "All right, she's telling us how to have difficult conversations," and I said, "Well, every once in a while, a difficult conversation comes to you, and you're not ready. What do you do?" And she gave what is my favorite advice on the show. She said, "You have to squeeze your butt cheeks." I was like, "What?" She's like, "Oh yeah." She's like, "That's going to take the emotion from your brain. It's going to get it below your heart. Now you're going to be able to reason." So I've told people to squeeze their butt cheeks time and time again. And then my other favorite moment was when we had John Hattie on the show. John Hattie's my guy. So I mentioned before that I'm really good at math. I'm great at spreadsheets. I still love numbers. And so John Hattie's work is some of my favorite. But in talking to him, we went beyond that. And I asked him a question. I said, "John, do you feel like you're a threat to the model?" Because we were talking about ways that education should be better. And one of the problems is there's a status quo in education. And so I said, "John, are you a threat to the model?" And he said, "I hope so." And to be there with a guy who I appreciate his work so much and who I followed for a long, long time, even before others did, for him to say, "I hope I'm a threat to the model," that's probably my highlight of the podcast. It was an awesome, awesome moment. Was there a second part to that question? What was the second part?
You got it. And I'm just
Okay.
listening. And look, I am not telling anybody to squeeze their butt cheeks.
I haven't stopped. So in case you're wondering how the podcast is, there's some moments like that. So
I love it, though.
yeah.
It's a good one. It's a good one. Thank you.
I think I read that in Marzano's book in chapter 5. Squeeze your butt. I think he did put it. Hey, you guys got to read Marzano again, all right? Just letting you know, it's chapter 5, I think.
Okay, I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna go there, Josh. All right, Ms. Dana, can you share with us just what you've learned from your shows and which interview stands out to you the most?
In terms of interviews, I've interviewed some big names as well. I would say having Principal Caffelli on was great. And that was I recorded with him back in the fall of 22. So. He was working on the Social Justice 50, but I would also say just interviewing some teachers, often teachers that have kind of been down the same road as me, working in either dual language schools or teaching world languages or being in leadership positions for world language teachers. Those have been fun for me to do because of always highlighting what teachers in that position do. I'm on the board. I've been on the board of the Colorado Congress for Language Teaching since 2020, and I'm currently the president of that organization. But back in 22, we had this was his name is Etienne, and he does CDs like rock CDs for French and Spanish, and he was brought in to be our keynote speaker that year. And I did a live show with him in February of 20. That was pretty cool. Like it was somebody whose CDs I used when I was teaching French grammar, and able to bring him in as a keynote, and then do that live show with it was like a breakout session. So that was really fun. And then what I've learned, I think, is just it's learning to have conversations with a variety of different people, get to know a lot of people. I do a pre-chat, so I find out a little bit about the guest in a 15-20 minute conversation prior, but also I do interviews with people I know as well, that some Colorado educators or people that I've met at conferences, so getting to know them more through the podcast or highlighting their work through the podcast is really fun as well, especially if I've already known them before I record with them. So I just, I think it's a great opportunity to highlight others' work and to make more connections.
Awesome. Love it. Thank you for sharing. All right, Principal JL. I've been waiting to say that, Principal JL, since I heard you say it, and then I heard Jeff say it, so now I'm going to say it. Principal JL, you're up.
All right. Well, I'm an infant compared to these guys when it comes to podcasting. Only having my 51st show come out tomorrow. So when it comes down to it, I've had a lot of great people on the podcast. I think some of my favorite are when I interview people from my from local areas. Like Rudy Perez was one of my favorite interviews when I early came on. Jeff Swartz, people in the state of Nebraska that I know coming on the podcast has been a lot of fun. But I'm trying to get different perspectives. I brought in an assistant principal that is going through their first year. I brought in a few assistant principals on top of that, just talking about educational leadership in general. I do have people like Principal Mo on the show. I've had Dr. Joe Sanfilippo. I've had Dr. Peppard. I've had Rachel Edoeket. I've had, tons of different people. I had Principal L on the show. Tomorrow's show is going to be Dr. James Lane, who was actually at one time the U.S. Department of Education person, like advisory person. And so that was a fun episode. So what I really get out is I really learn from other people. And I've actually implemented some things that I learned from other people through interviewing and understanding, learning all these things. I've also had Josh Tavar on the show as well. I want to give him a shout out. Yep, that guy right there. I think he was one of my favorite ones too, because we talked about you got to have street cred as a principal and understanding that if kids know that you care, they'll learn from you. And so I think that's really important. So what I like to do is I don't really have a set time, because I think some people can just go. I mean, we have a set, list of questions, but that's just a guide. And so we just go wherever the conversation is. And I really want to just highlight the work that other educators are doing, because I know it's going to help somebody out there. And the nice thing about podcasts is they're forever. They're there forever. So where if someone wants to go back a couple of years and listen to an episode, they can. And so I think that's the beautiful thing about podcasts is all the different shows and different types of variety of people that I've had on, but also learning from them and taking some things like Principal Mo. I brought back Magic School AI, and we actually are utilizing that in our school. I'm researching the Fundamental 5 that I've learned from the PGP podcast as well. There's just a lot of great things. I've had Principal Tony Catani on the show. I'm learning about his peer observation model. How is that going to help? How can that help my school? And so those are the things why I do it, because it's my free PD as well as everybody else's. So there's my podcast and things I've learned and a lot of people that I've got to interview.
I love it. And Principal JL, you said something earlier that I want to circle back to, and I think it really pertains to each of the messages that you have shared, and that is that there's so much negative information circling about education, specifically public education out there, that this is the opportunity for us to write our own narrative. And I always encourage people to do that. Don't allow someone else to show us or to tell us what our narrative is as educators. We have to give them the narrative. We have to give them the story. And we have to give them the best version of that story that we can so that it's believable, right? So thank you all for sharing this with us. Thank you for the time that you put into doing this consistently. I can't wait to listen to y'all this week and moving forward. But just a reminder, everyone, please go and follow PGP Podcast at JTS Spotlight on X, on Facebook, on YouTube, and become a part of this narrative that we are all writing together. All right,
Beautiful.
Josh.
Beautiful. All right, we're towards the end of the show, guys. Real quick, simple questions. You got educators out there and they want to start off educators, but different people that want to start off a podcast, and you guys have enough episodes under your belt to you already gone through a couple of broken noses when it comes down to having a podcast. So if I talk to a novice out there, an area superintendent, somebody that might want to start a podcast because somebody has what it takes to have a podcast. Tell the audience just one issue or one problem that you've had in the past that just help them out to avoid it. For me, I'll just start off real quick. You're gonna have people that cancel you the day of the show. Don't cancel me on the day of the show. Don't do that. Don't do that. And don't tell me there's a time limit. All right? Because whenever you go to a podcast, expect to be there a while. So I'm just putting it out there into the zone out there. Stuff happens. We understand. But one of the things that people will cancel you without telling you, and they expect that it's only going to be like 20 or 30 minutes. No. Just like Principal JL says, the shows have their own life. And when you're hearing the conversation, you know, sometimes those conversations take a while and you're really getting a lot of meat and potatoes out of that conversation. So what's, Casey, on Undershirts and Tie, what's one of the things that you faced that's a problem?
So I never follow instructions, so I'm going to give a couple. One, don't forget to hit record. Otherwise, you'll get an hour into it. You're like, that was an amazing conversation. And you didn't hit record. I'm not saying that happened to me. I'm just saying. Another thing, try to make sure you figure out time zones. That's been the most difficult part of this thing is figuring out time zones. Otherwise, if you love what you do, hit record, figure out the time zones, and you'll be just fine.
Lord, bro, you're so right. Because I'm a history teacher and people start calendar math. Is that mountain time? So I did take away 2. What area? I got you.
We got some people from Australia. That was a real problem.
Oh,
New
Ghana.
Zealand, I'm like, huh,
Ghana, bro.
Yeah.
New Zealand, Ghana,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I'm like, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, brother, for sharing that. Dana, 300 plus shows. Tell the future aspiring podcast.
Well, I think to avoid the time zone confusion, use Calendly to book a time or have them book a time, because then the podcaster will receive the time in their own time zone. It say on there at the bottom, like their guest time zone, but like, then I know I'm going to put this time in my phone, so I won't be confused. I mean, a lot of people are on Eastern or Central and I'm on Mountain, but that's one thing. I would say, I just making sure people are aware of the link and they know. I usually tell them it goes between 20 and 60 minutes, so they kind of know. Like, we set a series of questions in the pre-chat. I always do a few minutes with them when we do the recording. I just check in with them and just make sure. Do you want me to reiterate the questions? Do you have any about what I'm going to ask you, anything like that? Just kind of iron out any of the kinks before we hit record. So I really haven't run into any huge issues. There might have been once I had to re-record, and I don't know what happened to an episode that I'd recorded. The guest was gracious. That went fine. Another time I had a guest who emailed me that they record because they didn't like what they said or something. So that was fine as well. But out of all the episodes I've recorded, now I have several in the bank, so there's about 400 that have been recorded. Out of all, there's been very few like major hiccups, I would say.
Love it. Thank you for sharing, Principal JL.
All right. Well, those are all great advice. I use the Calendly as well. I also use a Google form where I send the guests like, hey, I'd like to get information about the guest, their bio, kind of all the things, their emails, and I utilize that information to help me come up with the questions. And I kind of have a format. I think once you figure out your format, your interview format, that's important. I kind of played around with that in my first episodes and different things like that. But now I kind of have a format down to where, I really want to take people through other educators' journeys and how they got to where they are today, and then learn from them and those things. And I always, think about like, hey, these questions are a guide. There's something that I use to guide the conversation, but I don't have to hit all the questions, because we may go from this question and the guest may say something, and then I want to use a follow up, or I'll use a spin off from that. And so just trying to keep the conversation flowing. So it's not like if it's a genuine conversation. I think one of the things that I've learned, I do all my own editing, everything like that. I want to make my guests look and sound good when they're on my show. So I try to have the best quality, you know, audio that I can have and video. I use some different things like Opus Clips to make my clips for my social media posts. What I do that might be different is actually create a Google Drive for my guests where I will actually give them video clips, the graphic of the episode. I'll give them the unedited version. So if they have a podcast or something they want to use it on, they're more than welcome to use it because it's something that we collaborated on. And I really don't get all worried about the copyrights and all that. So those are some things that I do on my end. But same thing is I want to have the guests be spotlighted. I want them to sound good and look good when I put out a show. And I learned a lot just by researching how to do podcasts. I think the number one thing is when you start a podcast, you are scared to put it out there for the first time because you're putting something out in the world. You don't know how people are going to react to it. And over time, I've gotten used to it, but it is a scary thing to put your thoughts and to put other people's information out there and give people content because you just don't know how it's going to be received. And I've had positive things and negative things throughout the time, but overall, the podcast doesn't have to be perfect. Like it doesn't have to always be perfect. So you don't have to be perfectionist when you put an episode out. Just put out what you have and it will be just fine.
And thank you guys, everybody. It's so true. I've been a handful of podcasts myself as a guest. There is no universal one set way of doing it. Everyone does it totally different. From Barbara Bray to Jeff Linden to Shirts and Ties, everyone does it totally different. It's what your comfort level is in regards to providing the best product out there and making your guests feel comfortable and look great out in front of the universe, whatever it's being put out there. Dr. Brandy.
All right, y'all. Let's close this out with recommending a podcast to us and why you recommend that podcast. All right. Dana, kick us off.
Well, I'm going to recommend the podcast of a guest I know is coming up on this show next weekend, Danny Bauer's Better Leaders, Better Schools podcast. Been around for 10 years, and he's been just a source of just great information, whether he's interviewing guests who have written books or just leaders in different fields, because he doesn't just interview educators. And I've been in his mastermind as well, and I've been on a few retreats with Danny. So definitely recommend Better Leaders, Better Schools for any educational leader or anybody who's aspiring to be a leader.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. All right, Casey, what's your recommendation and why?
Yeah, I would recommend Charlie Peck. She's doing a lot of the social emotional learning. I am a big proponent that we integrate that more naturally into education rather than it be a standalone thing. And she has some really great ideas on how educators can do that. So let's do Charlie Peck.
Love it. All right, Principal JL.
All right. This person has a podcast. Also the National Principal of the Year for 2025, Tony Cantani. I love his podcast because he's trying to get as many educators as possible to talk about their proud principal moments. So the Proud Principals podcast with Tony Cantani is great because you get to listen to other leaders around the country's proud principal moments, and you can identify with that. Yeah, I really can identify with what that person's going through. But then you kind of like understand, there's some great things happening across the United States, and being able to share your proud principal moments has been a lot of fun just to listening to those principals do that and those educators do that. So that's my recommendation. Proud Principal by Tony Cantani.
Awesome. Thank you all for sharing. All right, Josh, let's get into these book promos.
Real quick. If you are about to do those stocking stuffers, Superintendent, Glenn Robbins from New Jersey talks about the dark side of education. People that put obstacles for you, that say you will never be a principal, you will never be an AP. Yes, that happens, but he ties it into musical talent that are superstars, and we're told you're never going to be successful in the music industry. Great book right there. Those of you dealing with 6'7", 6'7", 6'7", you got to do it, Casey. You got to do it, Casey. Thank you, sir. The Stoics, leaders. It's only but for the chair, but all of you out there, educators, how to make sure you stay. Again, Superintendent Glenn Robbins, great book. Keep you nice and focused during this hard time of Mr. 6 and Mr. 7. How to Pedagogy Fundamental 5. We are a Fundamental 5. Sean Kane, how to support teachers with delivery of instruction. This is what our campus is all about. Instructional rounds, delivery of instruction. Great book. And they're the great size. You know, as educators, we like these books right here. And Barbara Bray, 23 Stories by 23 Educators. Yours truly writing the last chapter, chapter 23. So during this time, and it's also all the authors, we all read our own chapters. So you could get this on Amazon. So you could either read it or hear my annoying voice, however you want to do it. But you got it right there. That's a stocking stuffer. And let's close off before we get into the lightning round. Very simple, Dana. No, you principal jail. We're going to finish it with you right here. And then the lightning round. Finish the statement. Hey, educator. In 2026, 2027, I want you to.
Oh, man. I want you to stay positive because the work is worth it.
Dana. Hey, educator. In 2026, 2027, I want you to.
Reach out for help when you need it.
Casey. Hey, educator. In 2026, 2027, I want you to.
Have fun and laugh a lot.
Love it. So true. So true. So here we go. Our lightning round, Dana. You're going to start off our lightning round. It's the PGP podcast. G for ganas. Ganas is a universal monolith word. That is the only thing that ties all Hispanics. Nothing else ties us together. Ganas, either Bolivia, Ecuador, Peru, Puerto Rico. Doesn't matter where you're Hispanic. We all say it. It's a generational word. A grandma yells at her granddaughter. A mother tells her son, whatever it is. We all say the same thing. It's an inspirational word. And Dana, I want you to inspire us with the following question. Remember, it's a lightning round. It is a lightning round. So other than number 2. So here we go. Question number 1. Give advice to a new teacher.
Do what you're passionate about. Take advice from those who have been in the field.
Read a note, an email, a text from a parent, a colleague, or student that inspired you with their words.
So I didn't bring it, but I read it earlier today. It was when I had to take over for a teacher when I was instructional coaching. There was a teacher with, so I came in the school year and taught English. It was a student who was just saying, thank you for reviving my love of reading. I really enjoyed the books that we read this semester. And it really felt like you were part of, our class, just kind of taking over at this time of year that I did. So, they were inspired and to be in the class.
Send some flowers to an active colleague who inspires you in your work.
So I would send flowers to Melanie Sokol, the instructional coach at my school. We inspire each other, I think, with our ideas. We talk a lot of professional development and things that we're helping the teachers out with in our roles. And I think she's here as a coach.
Dana, it's a lightning round.
Sorry.
Here we go. Name one person the audience should follow on social media that does the work.
Jeffro Jones for Transformative Principal.
What is your favorite comedy movie?
I would say Pretty Woman.
Tell the audience about the one-hit wonder that you love.
Oh gosh, there's so many '80s hits, but probably one on song. I know that's from early '90s.
What are you thankful for in life?
My kids and my husband.
What's your favorite Christmas song and who sings it?
"Oh Holy Night" is probably my favorite song. It's more classical. There's several people who've sung it, but I've sung it myself as well. So,
How can people get a hold of you, young lady, and give the name of the pod one more time?
so my podcast is Out of the Trenches. You can follow me on X, Blue Sky, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram at Dana Goodyear or at Out of Trenches PC. And also, you can find the podcast there.
Great show, great show. Thank you, Dana. Principal JL, give advice to a new teacher.
Hey, man, this work's hard. Find the joy in your work every day.
Read a note, an email, a text from a parent, a colleague, or student that inspired you with their words.
All right, here's my note right here. So I got this right before Thanksgiving. You have made this school feel cheerful and make everyone do 1% better. Go Tigers.
Send some flowers to an active colleague who inspires you in your work.
Oh, man, there's so many of them. I'm going to have to say my assistant principals do a great job, helping our school run.
Give their names.
We have Damon Google and Brian Louts.
Name one person the audience should follow on social media that does what you do.
Let's go with Todd Bloomer. Todd Bloomer, Blueprint. He's a good guy to go follow that guy. He does some great posts.
What's your favorite comedy movie ever?
This is a tough one, but I'm going to have to go with The Ballad of Ricky Bobby.
Tell the audience about that one-hit wonder that you love.
The one-hit wonder that I love, there's so many of them. I don't have one, honestly. I just don't have one. I can't think of one off the top of my head.
What are you thankful for?
What's that?
What are you thankful for in life?
Thankful for in life. I'm thankful for my family and doing the work that I do.
What's your favorite Christmas song and who sings it?
Christmas song. Well, Dana took it, so I'm going to go with Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas Is You.
How can people get a hold of you, sir?
All right, you get a hold of me, the Educational Leadership Podcast with Principal JL. I'm on all the platforms and podcasting. You can just look me up on that end. I'm on TikTok, on Instagram, X, and Facebook.
Love it. Casey, mi hermano, let's finish strong right here, bro. All right, lightning round. Get advice to a new teacher.
Always speak with clarity, consistency, and compassion. There's nothing more important than your students knowing that they can trust you and that you are believe in them as a person, not just the content.
Read a note, an email, a text from a parent, a colleague, or student that inspired you with their words.
Okay, here we go. Good morning. I love this quote from your article. It gave me great perspective. The quote, yes, I'm not going to make you do anything. And that worries me because I'm afraid you won't have the skills to make and keep friends. It gave me direction on where to go with some of my students who are currently lacking appropriate work ethic and or attitude. Thank you for the hard work you're doing for our schools and always being a resource for teachers.
Wow, love it. Send some flowers to an active colleague who inspires you in your work.
I'm going to send some flowers to Shauna Lundvall. She's working in the SPED department. She's working so hard to get better, and she cares so much about those kids.
Beautiful. Name one person the audience should follow on social media that does what you do.
Yeah, Dr. Tina Curry. She's an instructional coach in Chicago. Nobody works harder for what is right and for her colleagues. Tina Curry.
Beautiful. What's your favorite comedy movie?
Did we skip the one-hit wonder, or am I out of order?
You're out of order,
nothing.
sir.
Okay. I always laugh at the end of Titanic when Rose doesn't like Jack on the door, but I guess that's not a comedy. So I'm going to go with Nothing to Lose, Tim Robbins and Martin Lawrence.
You just made it a comedy, bro. You just made Titanic a comedy. Tell the audience with the one-hit wonder.
Nana's 99 Luftballons.
What are you thankful for in life?
My home, not just a house. I didn't always have a house, let alone a home growing up. I got a beautiful home, and I share it with wonderful people.
What's your favorite Christmas song? Who sings it?
I love Little Drummer Boy, but it's the one by Justin Bieber and Busta Rhymes.
All right. OG, original right there. How can people get a hold of you and that other cat that's somewhere wrestling grizzly bears?
Yeah, it's the Shirts and Ties podcast. We're on Instagram, TikTok, all the places. So you can just look for Shirts and Ties.
Love it. Thank you, panel. Don't hang up after we get off the call right now. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Appreciate you. These are there are tons of podcasts, but you know what? Let me let you know that these educators, when they present their content, it's with love and passion. You could feel it in their exchanges, in their authenticity, with their hard work, bringing in those guests and pulling out the best part of them, which is that intuition, which is that knowledge. And that's what we need out there. You're not alone. You choose to be alone, but there's so many things out there. Edutopia, Education Week. You've got all of these shows. They're all here for you guys. And you could hear, you just saw them right now. These are real educators in the trenches with you. And they're making sure that they make us 1% better, as this cat over there always says, because we're always here to improve. The money's gone. That's a fact. But you know what? These resources are free for you. You could repeat them. You could use them with your PLCs, your collaborative team time, because they bring experts, and you got it all for free. And you know what? Because you're doing the best work out there. You're changing the lives of scholars. You're making sure that this country becomes the best version of itself, because we're putting out that product, and that product are our future leaders of America. So thank you very much for being here today. And next week, we do have the Ruckus Maker. The number one Ruckus Maker will be here presenting with everybody. Thank you very much, Dr. Brandy Brothington Godino.
Thank you all.
Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. Thank you, everybody out there. Please reach out to Robert about the AP, Dr. Stacks about his PhD work. That's what this is the purpose, that we're all connected, that we're all on the same mission, and that mission is educator success for our scholars. Thank you very much. Join us next week for episode 83 with the main Ruckus